Or is it recording already? Shehekazarta binishmati b'chemla Rabba emunatecha Shehekazarta binishmati b'chemla Rabba emunatecha Modani lefanecha Ruach Kayam Modani lefanecha Ruach Kayam Shehekazarta binishmati b'chemla Rabba emunatecha Shehechazarta binishmati b'chemla Rabba emunatecha Modani lefanecha Ruach Kayam Modani lefanecha Ruach Kayam Shehechazarta binishmati b'chemla Rabba emunatecha Shehechazarta binishmati b'chemla Rabba emunatecha Modani lefanecha Ruach Kayam Modani lefanecha Ruach Kayam. It is recording. Shehekazarta binishmati b'chemla Rabba emunatecha Shehekazarta binishmati b'chemla Rabba emunatecha Modani lefanecha Ruach Kayam Modani lefanecha Ruach Kayam Shehechazarta binishmati b'chemla Rabba emunatecha Shehechazarta binishmati b'chemla Rabba emunatecha. That's the Moda'ani chant, and by Rabbi Shefa Gold created the melody. And she has an app with about 95 different melodies, and this was today's melody. And the app is called Flavors of Gratefulness.
Welcome, everybody. Shana Tova. Wonderful to be with you on this rainy, damp Sunday morning in between our Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur services. It's a very heightened time of spiritual awareness and spiritual acuity. And it's a real honor and privilege for Jody and me to be sharing this meditation and chanting period together, because we can't, I mean, we could do it by ourselves and we do it by ourselves, but it's a lot more profound as community, and I believe that we actually do make a difference when we come together as community. I'll just shut the door. So why don't we just for a quick moment allow ourselves to get grounded and get settled. If we could just sit up tall wherever we're seated and feel our feet planted on the ground, feel our crown of our heads reaching up to the sky, our shoulders dropping back. And let's just take a minute to become present. Feel your feet. We'll do what we call a 3-sync process. So we're synchronizing our physical, emotional, and mental states. And so just allow yourself to take a physical scan of the body, starting with your feet, moving up through your calves and shins, and knee bone, thighs, hips, pelvis. And just in the lower torso, just observe if there's any pain or discomfort. Take a photo shot of it, screenshot of it, and just observe and be present, and to move up through your torso, up through the belly, the heart, up through the arms and the shoulders and the back. Just feeling your body, feeling into it, just observing again if there's any discomforts, paying careful attention and awareness to our physical beings and how precious they are. And as a result of this process, to allow for complete healing of anything physically that may be going on today with you. Move up through your neck, through your eyes, through your nose, through all our senses, crown of our heads. And let's just complete the physical scan and move into an emotional scan of our body, and just observe how you're feeling. How you were feeling coming into the program. A little anxious, maybe, a little excited. Maybe a little confused about this topic. Maybe feeling overwhelmed with the holidays. Maybe just a little nervous, everything going on in the world. Maybe just grounded. So just take a screenshot of your emotional state as we prepare to move into our mental state of being. And just observe your psychic awareness. Just observe if there's anything, any obstacles that are present for a clear psychic state of awareness. Just allow now for those 3 states of being to align themselves and synchronize themselves as we prepare for today. And when you're ready, just open your eyes, look around the Zoom room, kind of just feel into each other for a moment. Know that we are together, holding each other as we prepare to make this transition through this next hour, but also through the start of what I believe is a new period in our lives and in our history. So this is a 4-part program. The first 2 parts we focused on individual and ancestral trauma. And we did this through the lens of Kabbalah, and we did this through the lens of sacred Hebrew chanting. And when I say through the lens of, We use the Sefirot and we use the chant as a vehicle to build in a non-Jewish context, but it's a Jewish context because it's all about repairing the world and tikkun olam. We take a kintsugi vessel or vase from any brokenness that we have in our individual selves, in our ancestral selves. This is what we've done in the past 2 weeks. And we piece those back together with gold inlay. And we place these new vessels onto the altar of our hearts for complete healing. So even though you may have been with us or not been with us those first 2 weeks, I invite you to be open to the possibility and to maybe just quickly visualize that possibility for yourselves, that someplace in your on the altar of your heart, you're placing the individual healing of any brokenness that may be in the past and in your ancestral past, any brokenness. And we're going to continue that theme around collective trauma, which is a lot, obviously sounds bigger and more amorphous and difficult to get our arms around. But again, in this period between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, there is a heightened level of spiritual awareness and acuity that allows our collective work to do some healing that is of special time right now for us to be doing this work. So we offer each year our prayers, our gratitude, our hallelujah for the past year. We offer our forgiveness to family members and friends and community for any place we went astray. And we return ourselves back to that place where we are our best and highest selves to do this work. So I just wanted to quickly acknowledge who I consider the source of this work, and that's Rabbi Tirza Firestone, who I've been studying with and has been offering teachings on healing ancestral trauma. I wanted to acknowledge Rabbi Shefa Gold, who's inspired Jody and myself in the spiritual sacred Hebrew chanting that integrate with this work. And I wanted to acknowledge Rabbi Rachel, who's here and present, and for creating Makom and creating the conversation for this to take place, for this work to show up at Adat Shalom. Thank you, Rachel. So again, today we're focusing on this concept of collective trauma. So essentially, when you listen to trauma experts, what we're doing is downloading the trauma from our historical past. It could be the combination of individual, ancestral, and also historical. I mean, so again, if you look at the Holocaust then as an example, for many of us, it's ancestral. For others, it's historical. I think if everyone sitting here is Jewish, born Jewish or converted, we do share that, I think, ancestrally. I'm not sure the distinction is that important for this work. And so that's our focus for today. And I do want to say that it's not something to be dreaded. It's something to be embraced, because when you hear stories today of people, if we're using the Holocaust, let's say, as an example, I know Kanu is here, who just got back from Europe. I hear stories of people who, in the face of what's happening in the Ukraine, it feels like World War II to some extent when you're on the ground in Europe. And people say that's evidence of the fact that we haven't fully digested what occurred in World War II. And so what we react to in the Ukraine is not just what's happening above the surface and the atrocities, but we're also reacting to what's below the surface, what's in our unconscious, what we don't see, what we don't feel, that we haven't fully digested yet. And the opportunity is the more we digest and metabolize those painful stories and histories of ourselves and our families and communities, the more capacity we have for healing, the more capacity we have for dharmic fight, for righteousness, for moral, ethical leadership to show up, which is so missing right now on our planet. So on Yom Kippur afternoon, we will have our 4th session. It will not be Zoom for those folks who can't join in person, unfortunately, but it'll only be live at the synagogue. So just some examples of collective trauma other than the Holocaust, and you probably we could sit here all day listing the collective trauma, but what I put in my note inviting for today is that one definition is what was occurring at the time of our birth. So if at the time of, as a baby boomer, we're post-World War II, so clearly the Holocaust is one example. Nuclear escalation and the hiding under our desks as kids, or doing those drills. I put Madison Avenue into that at the time of my birth, because I think Madison Avenue really steered our nation in terms of our wants and not wants, and what we don't need and think we need, and so forth. And then you could list, it is recurring. So climate is an example. Climate is recurring. And I've heard an expression this week of pre-traumatic. We've used the word post-traumatic growth and resilience. That's sort of where we're heading with this conversation. And that's the benefit of engaging in this type of work is that we come to the other side. But there's this other piece, which is pre-traumatic growth. An example of climate change was, young couples who don't want to bring children into the world for fear of our planet. And if that's the sole reason that people don't want to bring people into the world, children into the world, I think it's something that we need to really pay attention to, be aware of. We can include childhood and sexual abuse. We can include opioids. Many of you know I work with September 11th victims. September 11th was clearly a collective trauma for us. American slavery and how that has perpetuated itself into the current racial divide we are facing today. All examples of collective trauma, and there's more. And it seems daunting. But again, as we stop and breathe and allow ourselves to recognize that we have the capacity in our work that we do, in our breath that we do, in our own practices we do, we can transmute, transform, and rebuild future generations. So I want to mention, as I did in prior sessions, the concept of the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is, on the theory, holds the memory, holds the DNA, holds the concepts of the trauma that is often buried and unconscious, and the vagus nerve goes from the base of the spine up through into the brainstem. So the more we're awakening that unconscious events and stories and narratives that we have playing or unconsciously playing, what we find is the more room we have for our breath to show up, the more room we have for spaciousness, for generosity, for compassion, for love. Because what, unfortunately, and we all do, I mean, we get stuck in these older tracks. I call them trauma tracks sometimes, but these older tracks and patterns of unconscious behavior, we form into sometimes unhealthy ways of dealing with one another. And so what's happening when we look at the collective trauma piece, that's what we're doing societally. We're continuing to carry out these unconscious tracks of colonialism, patriarchal behavior, and oppressive behaviors of abuse and so forth. So again, by us focusing on that healing, we offer a prayer, we offer this kintsugi, joining of gold inlaid pottery, a new vessel being born for us and for our society and for our planet. So I'd ask that you identify one collective trauma that you feel resonating for you. Rabbi Tirza quotes Ta-Nehisi Coates in her book on wounds into wisdom, and Ta-Nehisi Coates describes the collective trauma as an example of it is though we have run up a credit card bill and having pledged to charge no more, remain befuddled that the balance does not disappear. The effect of that balance is interest is accruing daily all around us. It is though we have run up a credit card bill and having pledged to charge no more, but we remain befuddled that the balance doesn't disappear. The effects of the balance, the interest accruing daily, are all around us. And examples of trauma in today's world. So you could imagine the costs that we're paying are huge. If I just look at civil rights and American slavery, you know, the cost of incarcerations, the cost of wasted life and potentiality, the fear-based media, how it perpetuates otherness at times. And unfortunately, in our Jewish community, it also divides us from the African-American community, which is one group we need to stay united with.
Kim said First Nation people.
First Nation people, absolutely. So we're going to prepare to move into our chant period, and the first chant is called the New Covenant, Natati. And it really is consistent with this whole concept of building a new order of sorts that's based on collective healing and post-traumatic growth, and recognizing that as we move through and out of the pandemic, and as we move out of all the things that divide us, we have a possibility for a new Torah to be created. And Shepherd describes that the chant is coming through Jeremiah. It promises to make a new covenant. It'll be different. You'll find this one inside you. And that a covenant is always a two-way agreement. So that when I chant, I'm expressing my own commitment so that I could stand up in partnership with the divine force of love. So even though this collective trauma seems so huge and so large, it really is still in the I and thou camp. It's still me and God. God, in this case, representing and holding the trauma. I'm holding it with God, and we're holding it together. And we move into this place and put on the altar this beautiful vessel that's being reconstructed in our hearts for healing for our planet. And Jody's going to lead us in Natati.
Natati etorati bekirbam bialabam ektavena. I will put my Torah into their inmost being and inscribe it upon their hearts. From Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 33. Natati etorati bekirbam. Natati. I'm on a different medication that's affecting my vocal cords. Hold on one sec. Natati etorati bekirba. Natati etorati bekirba. Vialabam etnavena. Vialabam etnavena. Natati etorati bekirba. Natati etorati bekirba. Vialabam etnavena. Vialabam etnavena. Natati etorati bekirba. Natati etorati bekirba. Vialabam etnavena. Vialabam etnavena. Natati etorati bekirba. Natati etorati bekirba. Vialabam etnavena. Vialabam etnavena. Natati etorati bekirba. Natati etorati bekirba. Vialabam etnavena. Vialabam etnavena. Now close your eyes and turn the eyes of your heart inward. Imagine inside this Torah that is written there. It is exactly the Torah that you need to receive at this moment. It's been written inside your heart. The next chant is called Sealed, also by Rabbi Shefa Gold. Nezaker v'necha time v'necha, may we be remembered and sealed in your presence. These words from our Holy Day liturgy are said just once during the pivotal moments of Nila, when the gates are about to close. This, the moment when all of our highest intentions are sealed, which means they enter deeply into our core, where they will be available for us when we need them, The neuroscientist Rick Hansen asks the question, how do passing mental states become lasting neural traits? That's my question too, as I walk the path of spiritual practice, having experience of wonder, flashes of unity consciousness, moments of deep connection. How will those experiences be planted in me and grow to become my strength, resilience, compassion, and abiding love? These words can be used at any time of the year when our intention is to seal in the truth of an experience that we want to have access to and remember and integrate. Is there a message that you want to seal into your own heart? A message that you want to remember sealed into your heart so that you are never far from that truth? And as we chant, we can put our hand on our heart. Nezacher ve'natechatem lefanecha. Nezacher ve'nechatem lefanecha. Nezacher v'nechatem 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 lefanecha. Now very softly, Nezacher v'nechatem lefanecha. Nezacher v'nechatem Nezafer v'nechatem lefanecha. Nezacher v'nechatem lefanecha. And now loudly again. Nezacher v'nechatem lefanecha. Lower. Nezacher v'nechatem lefanecha. Nezacher v'nechatem lefanecha. Nezacher v'nechatem lefanecha. Now keep your eyes closed and look inside and feel yourself connected to that place of remembrance. With each breath, it gets brighter.
And let's just continue with our eyes closed as we continue to sit up tall on our seats, crown reaching up to the sky, feet firmly planted. Just observing soft belly breathing, filling our lungs, filling our heart, filling our brain with clear, cool, clean, filtered oxygen. And let's bring our attention, if we may, to our feet and to the ground and to the earth. And just imagine the thousands and thousands of meridians that are captured in the balls of our feet and our toes and our heel throughout the feet. One of the most important foundational pieces in our body. And just imagine that there's beams of light penetrating into these meridians from the earth. And you could also imagine that there's a reddish color. Really is the alchemical symbol of complete healing. And just imagine also that there's this supreme intelligence in these light forces and beams that are coming up and through our feet, through our bodies, conducting a complete healing throughout our body. And we could imagine this reddish light moving up through our legs, through to the base of our spine. Our malchut, it's a part of our sits bones that holds the DNA, that holds all the past. And we're just present. We're just in a state of awareness, holding our own fields and holding our collective field together. Each of us experiencing a sense of oneness with our great earth, with our great planet. And as we move up to the Sefirot of Yesod, the area around our genitals, the area connected to our elimination, our creation, our creativity, and our connection with the world. We imagine a tangerine-colored permeating that area. It's next in our level of alchemical work together of healing collective trauma. We next move up into our belly region, where we're girded by the Sefirot of Hod and Netzach. And if we could just bring our attention to our left hip for a moment. Our left hip is Sefirot of the ancestors. And we're just going to take a journey now. We imagine that we're standing at a beautiful entrance, a doorway, and we recognize that we're moving inside a great hallway that holds all our ancestors. On one side is our mother's family, and on the other side is our father's family. Going back to the beginning. So we knock 3 times, and we are allowed into this sacred and precious hallway. As we're greeted by our ancestors, maybe our most recent losses, we're reunited. And we invite our old and wise ancestors who we resonate with. Someone who maybe we know, someone maybe we don't know. To be drawn to connect with. Long lost family. And you can invite them now to become one of your, you don't even have to say anything because they know, but they're becoming one of your guides, guide or guides. And we also offer a complete healing in the spirit of our individual and ancestral trauma healing work. Whatever abuse, whatever pogroms, whatever slavery they've been through, we recognize, we stay present to that. And we offer a deep, complete healing for them. We move to our right hip. Netzach, the Sefirot of eternity, of purpose, of Dharma. of perseverance. So we hold in our hips these two pieces of our ancestors in eternity, feeding the energy and the nourishment for our digestion, for our metabolism, for us to heal in our belly region, in the somatic region. All that needs to be healed, all that needs to be digested, all that needs to be composted. We move up from the belly region through the vagus nerve. But before we leave the belly, I just want to say that the color that's being imagined here is like a lemon zest. Lemon being very high alkaline and very supportive of digestion. And the yellow being an important color element in that alchemical process. We move up through the vagus nerve into the heart center, into our tefirot, the beauty, the place of beauty, of profound, just undescribable gorgeousness. And we are girded in our heart center by gevurot, by justice, and by chesed, by love and kindness. And we imagine the place of tefirah, the place of the beauty, the center of our heart, surrounded in beautiful greens. It's as though we're after the rains and the negative ions are just permeating through our body. We feel the aliveness of the greenery. The heightened oxygen levels. And in our heart center, as we approach, we recognize 7 gates that we are moving through. The first gate that we come to is the gate of our ancestors. And we're greeted there by our wise and old ancestors who we met on the path, representing continuity. The next gate that we go through is gevurot, the gate of divine power. We recognize our strengths, and we recognize that this is where justice lies. And we can't have complete peace and healing unless there's justice. That's in our right shoulder. We move through the gate of Kedushat Hashem, hallowing God's name, or Makom, the place where God is showing up. The next gate is the Kedushat Hayom, where we're recognizing today and the holiness of this process, and the holiness of our day, and the holiness of the Mishkan, the temple that we're building inside our hearts. The next gate is the gate of Avodah. It's our worship, it's our divine purpose. It's each of our divine work. And the next gate is Hoda. Hoda, gratitude for each other, for ourselves, for our relationship with God. And the last gate is Birkat HaShalom. It is the gate as we move through blessing for peace. As we move through these gates, we continue just for a brief moment up through the vagus nerve into the neck region, where these beautiful blue colors, it's where our vocal cords are a regulator of the Sefirot. We regulate all the lower Sefirot through the glands in our throat region. And we move up into our right cheek, right eye area, where Chokhmah, where our divine supreme wisdom lives. And our left cheek and under our left eye, where Bina, deepest understanding for ourselves and for each other. These are the colors of African violets. We move up into the third eye region and up into the crown, our Keter. And we just imagine that there's a light shining through our crown. And this light emanates from a star, your star. Each of us has our own individual unique star in our planetary system, shining its divine light through us, through our nervous system, allowing us to transmit and receive purely with the divine. So we allow this light from our star to shine into our crown, down into our heart center, into our tefirah. And we move into just outside the chamber of our heart. We've moved back through the gates and just allow ourselves to see and imagine a vessel sitting on your heart's mantle, fully healed. Whatever the item was, whatever the subject was of this collective healing, allow it to be sealed and healed with golden lay, sitting more beautiful than one could imagine. As our old and wise ancestors lead us inside the chamber of our hearts. And we see our old and wise self nearing our death. However many years, God willing, many, many years away. But the old and wise ancestors drape us in this cloth. It's made up of lights. Lights from our star that capture all the deeds, all the mitzvot that we've done, and all the mitzvot and the good deeds that we do between now and that time when we depart our bodies. And we just wrap ourselves and we're surrounded by the people we love, our ancestors. And we move deeply into our heart center as we repeat Shalom, emphasizing the vowel, the ah, and the om. And we repeat that to ourselves as we just sit in awe of ourselves and our collective healing. And we're going to gently move out of the chamber. We're going to move back down to our left hip. And we're going to depart the great hall of our ancestors. We're going to close the door for now. And Jody's going to complete the program.
Nezacher v'nechatem lefanecha. 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 Nezacher v'nechatem lefanecha.
If we could just all put our hands up to the screen and let's just hold this, this healing for one another. Let it be sealed for a good year, for a year of peace, a year of gladness, and let joy increase. Amen. Thank you, everybody. We have a few minutes if people want to share anything about their experience of what came up. Again, I know this is a challenging topic of sort. I hope I hope it was made a little accessible for you. And I wanted to welcome my sister who's joining us, who's not on camera, but she could be. And my cousin Jackie who's here. Shana Tova, and everybody else in my Adat Shalom family and spiritual family. Martha?
So I really appreciate the use of collective trauma. In my own work, I've come to prefer that term to ancestral and historical, just for, I mean, those are great terms, but for healing, collective trauma comes from more of a sociological lens. And so it has the idea of not just healing ourselves, but also healing in community.
Mm-hmm.
And so I appreciate that, that way in. So thank you.
Sure. Yeah, it is work that's on the ground, and any ways, I think part of the conversation is how do we make it accessible?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anna L.
I actually had a question. My question is, when I was doing the visualizations, which I really love the colors and everything, and I had great relaxation and I had the ancestors, but you said something about offering them complete healing. And I thought, how do I offer them complete healing? So that's where I got a little stuck.
Mm. Yeah, I think all we can do is offer it. We can't necessarily affect it, right? But if we know, at least what I've learned is that when we know of historical patterns in our ancestry, for example, if we know there's a pattern of alcoholism or abuse, by offering that complete healing, what we're really saying is, I want to release that so that those patterns don't creep up into my behavior and the behavior of my children and their children. We're really trying to prevent that continuum from happening.
The release, that's a helpful thing. Release and maybe seeing them in pure white light.
Yeah, that's one way.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to share their experience?
Yes, I'd like to share.
Could you turn your lights on your eyeglasses, Phil?
No, you don't want to see my lights, Steve. What is the term again for the Japanese?
Kintsugi.
Kintsugi.
Ken-
Let me put it.
Kintsugi.
Do you know how to spell it?
That's okay. Glenn,
I found that to be a very helpful image, and I found myself flashing on several things in my life where I have regrets, things that are not earth-shattering, but they are repetitive for me. You know, it's sort of the groove that the record gets stuck on. So I flash back and I'm disappointed in myself, and I flash back and I'm disappointed in myself. And there I was, sort of creating this kitsubi vessel with gold leaf and whatever to put it back together. And I just felt this sense of release. Like, it's okay, it happened. You can make it into something beautiful. You can learn, you can grow, and you can move on. So I felt like that groove was just kind of disappearing. So it was a really lovely, helpful process. Thank you. And thank you guys so much for leading us in this.
Our pleasure. Anybody else want to share? Really wonderful seeing everybody and being with you this morning. It means a lot. And Ruth, it's nice to see you. Shana Tova.
Do you want to offer that if people want to have the PowerPoint you create for next week sent to them so they can.
Jody's offering me to
I'm
send you my
saying if
PowerPoint.
the people who are out of town, who are not going to be at services for Yom Kippur, he does a PowerPoint he creates for the program. So if those people who aren't going to be there want that information just to kind of travel through.
I use it for my
Yeah,
notes mostly as talking points, but if you want it, let me know. I'm happy to share it. Ruth?
Yes, please.
Okay. So
And
Shana
if I
Tova, an easy fast, everybody, a good, healthy year.